I feel like anything the jury's going to see in that courtroom, we should all see. You shouldn't run from the truth. You shouldn't hide the truth, even if it makes somebody look guilty. So that part of the still work to be done.
Taking a look at other top stories tonight, Coeur d'Alene police have pulled a car from the Fernan Lake, which belongs to a missing Idaho woman, Sharon Archer. They say a body was found inside. Police tell us that a person called the department to report something white off the boat docks, but it could only be seen when the sun hit it. The person saw posts on Facebook about search parties for Archer and decided to call in the object yesterday. When police arrived, they were able to locate the white 2013 Toyota Highlander about 150 feet from the shore. That car was last seen driven by Archer on September 28th. Police have not released the identity of the body found inside, and the case, including the cause of death, is still pending further investigation.
We do continue with breaking news at this noon hour. A missing woman in North Idaho has now been found dead. The Kootenai County Sheriff's Office confirmed the news within the past hour. 65-year-old Sharon Davidson was reported missing after she disappeared on December 14th. The Sheriff's Office said she was found this morning by the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office search and rescue team. They found her near her property, which is south of Coeur d'Alene. A lieutenant telling KREM 2 News the death did not appear to be suspicious, but the investigation is certainly still ongoing. We will update you on air and online at krem.com just as soon as we learn more.
Let's talk about this detail that you've learned about Brian Koberger. We were all shocked to see the photograph, the selfie that was snapped just hours after the murders in front of his shower. But you've learned what he did after that. What was it?
Yeah, I learned about a tally of some girls that were having conflicts and feeling like he was doing things that were making them very nervous, following them outside of the classroom, standing in front of the door, forcing them to go around him, basically forcing interactions. And they were just trying to do everything to avoid him. So how I understand it, they communicated this to management structure there. They said document things. They started documenting this tally that they put together. And from that,
what is that called? You're saying a tally? What was that?
I thought it was called like the Brian tally is what it was described to me as.
I'm not sure. Is this the place he works?
Yes. This is the classroom in which he's, a teacher aide in,
That's the name of the classroom. I hadn't heard that name before, but that's what this is. So this is basically the classroom where he is working. He's making everybody feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. And the tally is when they went to, I don't know if it was HR, but they went to people in the school and said, hey, I noticed something, this girl knows something, but it's still kind of hearsay. So then they're saying, document it, the time, the place, the things, a witness, those type of things. So they did do that, and that was going on, and that's how we found out that he missed school Monday after taking that photo, where he doesn't look sick to me, but what does that give him? That gives him a whole day to like go over figuring out how they're responding to what he's done. So he could sit there, gloat, and Google search, do the same things we were doing to try to figure out what was going on.
I think the world is curious about that November 13th day, the day you found out in the phone call. Are you able to talk about that?
Yeah, that day is
Sunday, February 2nd, 2025. The local police department in Fairfax, Ohio, receive a chilling 911 call.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
3919 Germania.
3919, what was the street name?
Germania in Fairfax.
Germania?
Yes. I think my sisters might have been murdered and
You know of
Okay,
anybody
thank
that
you.
might want to harm her or anything like that?
absolutely nobody.
When officers arrive on the scene, they find 64-year-old Sheila Tenpenny, who went by Denise, unresponsive in her own bed with the front door open.
Did he cover her up?
I don't know. The dispatcher said that he found her with a pillow over top of her. I don't know about
Like peroxide and cleaning chemicals? That's different. A lot of cleaning chemicals.
There's an unidentified watch next to her body. There's also blood on the bed, and a trail of blood leading from the bedroom to the back door and the gate to her yard. Next to her on the bed is a bent kitchen knife and a box cutter, though these don't appear to be the weapons that killed her. Her brother, who found her, Daryl, is waiting to be interviewed in the ambulance.
that day started out as a very odd Sunday in the first place because he was sick and he's never ever sick.
So is there anybody you know that would want to hurt her?
No, absolutely not. She's a decent person, honest.
Stays to herself?
Meanwhile, the medical examiner finds DNA under her fingernails. She fought back, and she scratched her attacker. This means that detectives might be able to identify the killer by scratches on his neck or face.
Never been to the hospital in my entire life, and it wound up being Ramsey Hunt, so he had this crazy rash on his face that started in his ear all the way down the nerve, and that morning woke up with his face all swelled up. And
the whole neighborhood is on edge.
Neighbor Jonathan Boschert and his family have been living in Fairfax for 3 years and say a big reason they moved to the village is because of its safe reputation.
It's jarring, I would say. Very unusual. It's still hard to believe that it happened this close.
Boschert just hopes it's an isolated incident.
Another neighbor has sent her son away, she's so concerned.
So my son went to spend the afternoon with his dad because he had fallen earlier that day. And anyway, just kind of recover and have some time away from the house and stuff and from his brother. And
was like, there's something wrong. I think I actually need to go to urgent care. And I was like, that's crazy. If you're saying that, this is serious.
This neighbor's name is Becca, and according to her, Denise was close with her sons, Levi and Hunter Cart.
they're only like 13.
Okay.
Both of them are 13. Oh, you got twins?
They're actually going to be 14 next month.
Oh.
And were they home with you that night?
So I don't know when it actually happened. I know that we saw the trucks or cars or whatever on Sunday. So actually Sunday morning at 6 a.m. We had to run to the ER because my son, the cat, I guess, was sleeping on his face, and they startled each other in the dark.
Oh man!
And it scratched him, and so we were worried that it could be bad or infected.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he's fine.
Okay.
It wasn't a big deal, but it was just traumatizing, and I was like, everybody get in the car.
So that's how the morning started out. So came home. They diagnosed him with Ramsey Hunt.
Okay, Lewis, he hurts. You okay?
Okay.
He's okay. I'll have him come out.
Hey, Lewis.
Pretty quick.
Hello.
Yeah.
How are you?
Oh, you're coming out?
What's you editing?
I was editing Dexter.
sometimes I edit.
Yeah.
But
He likes to make videos for TikTok.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
While it's still here, right?
Yeah.
Is that the cat that got you there on the nose?
I don't know what happened. We just we both startled each other because my bed was right there. I tried to clean myself up, not realizing how bad this was, and I fell in the shower, which is even worse. So I fell and hit my face, and I started crying, and she heard me crying, and then we went to the emergency room because she was like, "This is really bad."
In the emergency room all morning, the Carts apparently missed all the drama next door.
So you guys have never been in the house?
No.
Strange request. We're asking for DNA from people.
Sure.
It's used for elimination purposes only, so it's not entered into like fancy database or
They've already had the DNA testing for their for like medical for.
Yeah, this is just a Q-tip in the mouth real quick.
Yeah. So I'm not. They're already in a database somewhere.
Okay. Perfect.
Is that today or is that another?
Yeah, we could do it right now.
But Lewis isn't so keen.
Yeah, I just feel like I've been to enough doctors recently. I don't want to.
So have you seen any like crime shows or anything? You know how we kind of do our job. The medical stuff's a little different than the law enforcement stuff. But I don't know if she explained to you, but we're just going to swab your cheek, and it's not going to go into the database or anything. But we're going to compare it against stuff that we have. That makes sense. And it will take 2 seconds. It's just a.
Do I have to do it?
And he was in a lot of pain, but our son came over and they were watching the football game. And me and his mom and my mom started getting out Christmas decorations because I was like, let's decorate. Let's start decorating for Christmas. My niece called.
That's the question. They know he killed Denise. The DNA doesn't lie, nor do the scratches on his face. But what would drive this 13-year-old kid to commit murder?
Back to something you mentioned about, I think you said someone reached out to you who had taken one of Brian Kohberger's Reddit questionnaires. Is that true?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
We actually got a letter on that one, and then in the letter was a number to call. This individual said that they had been called, they got the Reddit, somebody called to survey them on crimes, and he was like, I felt like I was getting set up by the cops. So I was just like, I answered it kind of like over the top. He's like, I kind of embellished some stuff, kind of pulling the cop's leg, hung up. This guy calls me back a couple days later, and we start talking again. And he goes, and I start feeling like this guy's like enjoying how I was describing how I was getting away with, like how I selected my victims. And he said, so I told him, I knew these neighborhoods that had a lot of money, and somebody might drink a little too much wine. Somebody might make a call to 911 over a noise complaint. Somebody goes to jail. And when that male went to jail, I'd go to that house, surveil it. And if it looked like there was somebody in that house that was passed out, I would go rob that house. And that's how he picked his victims, I would say. And he would rob them from jewelry, and I don't know what you do nowadays. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but maybe cash or something. But he would rob them. He said that Brian seemed to enjoy his story, called him a couple times. He said he was so odd about it that when this case came forward, he was like, I know exactly what this is about. I'm going to reach out, and, maybe he's pulling my leg. There's been plenty of people who have sent us stuff that weren't accurate, but it always stuck with me. It already stuck. There's certain things that stick with you. That one was one of them. And, there's other stuff that other letters that we've given back to the prosecution and said, we don't even know what to do with this. And they've taken it. So
that was my next question. You shared that with prosecutors. They were interested to hear from these people.
Yeah, I don't know where it goes from there, but yeah, we've definitely given them the letters, and it's kind of
You've said that this stands out because of reports before from the Reddit survey that Brian Koberger sent out, as a criminology student, asking other criminals about their methods. Talk to me more about that.
Yeah, we got a letter and it had a phone number in there, and we called this individual, and he said he had been interviewed by Brian, and he got the sense that Brian was getting off on his story, and his story was basically he'd listen to a police scanner, wait for somebody to call the police on a domestic violence type of thing, and then the male would be arrested, and then he would go into those neighborhoods, and that would be the house that he would rob.
To WW, my star, my perfect silence. WW. I mean, who you figure that is, yeah? Woodrow Wilson? Willy Wonka? Walter White?
You got me.
Kind of like it just seems like it's a dead end. You never hear again. I was hoping I'd get my letter back, but no, we never got anything back. And I've never seen anything like that in the list of evidence, so it probably turned out to be nothing.
Interesting. But there isn't something forensically like, I personally keep thinking, how did the killer get out the sliding door of the kitchen, get to the car, get into the car, get to wherever the dumping ground was to get rid of the bloody clothing, the knife, and all the other implements of the crime, and get back to an apartment, and if it's Koberger's apartment, all without leaving a forensic trail that was, a beacon of blinking lights, because that didn't exist. And I keep wondering, what did that killer do to hide those tracks so well?
It's what if I said the killer actually wrote what he would do? Because Brian wrote a paper saying how he would go into a crime scene and not leave any evidence in that crime scene. So I think you just need to read what he wrote. He wrote exactly what he did, and he probably did more. Who knows what he learned in that Reddit post where he interviewed criminals that got caught or got away with different crimes. And, I believe he incorporated those into his night of action. So I think he came to that slider, opened it up whatever way he did, left it open, left some things outside at that slider. Part of his kit, part of his plastic bag, whatever it was.
Did you know that he knew what he had planned?
Steve, same.
I'm more of a planner. I'm more strategic.
His plan, he was planning it out right then and there. As they were eating, he was planning on their murder. Yeah. Right then and there. I mean, he was getting himself all hyped up, all dressed, packing his little bag.
Went in, did his thing. Was covered in a Dickie outfit from neck to toe. Had this hood thing on that they also got that coming to his house. If you attack this guy, you wouldn't scratch him. You wouldn't be able to get your hands on him. The only place would be his eyes. And gloves on. I think people underestimate if you know what you're doing and you want to go in there and you got a mission and you've been planning it out, you can get into that house. I've seen the models. I've seen the 3D models where they're in and out, sometimes in like 5 minutes. So there's a couple of them depending on the path that they take. But yeah, I mean, when you really watch a timer and you see the amount of time this person's been in the house, he had more than enough time. And then he got right back out. I mean, his door to the slider is the same technique that he used the doors into the room. He just didn't want to touch anything. He went in there with the plan, studied. I mean, he spent years and years in these classes just reading and admiring these other killers.
If he pled guilty and said, I'll plead guilty in exchange for a life sentence, have you thought about that?
Yeah, I don't want that because I do know, I studied the criminal system and the difference between life in prison. Even if it's 20, 30 years, he's 23 hours locked up. He doesn't get to do what is it, BTK killer? PTK.
Or whatever.
We've found out that he writes papers for other prisoners and gets treated really well because he's intelligent and he's able to help other prisoners get preferential treatment through the legal system. We don't want that type of behavior to happen in our case where he has influence outside of this event.
And he was basically planning out to do his version of what they did and incorporate what they did and their mistakes and try to be that much better than them.
Reporting a false sighting of a missing person in a location far from where their body is actually located can be driven by a range of psychological, cognitive, and in some cases, deceptive factors. We believe that psychological and some deceptive factors may have prompted Kaylee to report having seen Sharon Archer on October 5, 2021, 7 days after Archer's death, and 18 days before somebody found her right there in Kootenai County. These psychological factors range from genuine, well-intentioned mistakes arising from emotional stress, to manipulative behavior, designed to alter the course of an investigation. Feeling under pressure from emotional conflict to perform a duty she may have been opposed to, would nonetheless, in the minds of some, misdirect the course of an investigation in the search for Sharon Archer, who was indeed, at the time she was reported, submerged in Lake Fernan on October 5th, a week after she went missing. This report of having seen the person missing, as opposed to dead, cannot be related to memory or a dream experience, since the sighting was in real time and involved Kaylee's boyfriend as well, Jack Ducour. Kaylee had said that this person, who she thought was possibly Sharon Archer, was looking at the two of them while they were in Walmart, and again staring at the two of them while they were standing at the checkout line. A report should have indicated proximity and location in relation to where the reporting party was during the alleged sightings. It is possible that Kaylee experienced something called unfamiliar face misidentification, which acknowledges that people are poor at recognizing unfamiliar faces, particularly in high-stress situations. It is also possible that Goncalves felt the need to control or solve the missing person case. Since she was reportedly into true crime herself, it is possible that she felt the need to come up with information about Archer in the back of her mind, which stems from a psychological need to feel useful. Or was Kaylee being used? Staged sightings are often carried out to make people think that the victim was still alive at a later date or in a different place than they actually were, aiming to confuse the timeline of the death. Ask yourself this. Why would Kaylee, of all people in Moscow, Idaho, on October 5th, create a false narrative by reporting a false sighting an hour and a half away from a possible crime scene, Lake Fernan, exactly 1 week from the date when Archer's body and vehicle was plunged into a lake?
On the other hand, a murderer might recruit a trusted family member to report a person missing far from the actual body location to create spatial and temporal distance between themselves and the crime. This is not only a clever way to assist an alibi, but it is also an obstruction of justice when it is done as an effort to slow down police response or to divert resources to a wrong location, as was explained earlier. This tactic is also a form of staging used to manipulate law enforcement. Creating a false lead by reporting a missing person as seen far away from where the body is may steer search efforts away from the body. It suggests that the victim traveled voluntarily, making a perpetrator appear innocent while also giving them time to destroy evidence or dispose of the body in a more thorough manner. A trusted family member is less likely to be immediately suspected, allowing the perpetrator to shape the timeline of the disappearance and manipulate information. Offenders may intentionally mislead the public and police about the last known location of the victim to protect themselves from any scrutiny. Searching for a living person rather than investigating a homicide will only delay the investigation. Ask yourself this question. On the missing persons flyers found online, the agency to contact is the Coeur d'Alene Police Department. Why didn't Kaylee report any concern she may have had about the missing person, Sharon Archer, to the proper jurisdiction? Either the Kootenai County Sheriff Department or the Coeur d'Alene Police are the agencies on these flyers. It comes off as rather strange that Steve Goncalves was the person who contacted Fox News with the story about Kaylee having reported seeing a missing person, as seen from Coeur d'Alene, who was actually deceased at the time in a Moscow, Idaho Walmart. But it's also strange that the public received only half of the story. Steve left out that the missing woman was found dead on October 23rd, just 18 days after Kaylee reported seeing her, and that it was unlikely that Kaylee saw what she said she saw. If anything, it was possibly what placed Kaylee on the MPD's radar.
This case.
Well, for a criminology PhD, doesn't seem very smart. I mean, who buys a knife and a sheath and a sharpener online and has it delivered to your parents' house? And who goes after a killing where the sheath is left behind and the murder weapons disposed of to find a replacement knife and sheath online? Who does that?
I think even if you're somewhat intelligent, your human instinct, you start racking your brain and you started worrying, like, what if if the cops knock on my door and say, well, we couldn't help but notice you bought one of these. Where's yours at? You wanted to have one. You want to be like, here it is right here. It's in my fishing tackle box,